Mike with Bull Shad, I'm going to cover some customer questions that I get a lot of times. And the question is, what reel should I get for swim baits and why? A lot of people feel like they don't really need a bigger reel like a 300 series or a 400 series reel because they feel like they don't need that much line to catch a bass, which is true. You don't need that much line to catch a bass or even a muskie for that matter. Let me explain to you why most of us use the reels that we do. Usually a 200 reel has less line capacity than a 300 reel. A 300 reel has less line capacity than most 400 reels, most part. So why it's important is when you're throwing these heavy baits on a 200 series reel, a 3 to 4 ounce bait or 2.5 ounce bait, you can really hum that bait a long distance, which will cause your spool to be about like that at the end of a long cast, especially if you don't reel up fill your line up to complete capacity. So what that does is that ruins your retrieve speed, number one. Number two, it does away with trying to keep that line tight. When you hook that fish on the end of that long cast, you set the hook, you got to get all that stretch out of there, plus you need to keep up with that fish and keep that line tight. And with that spool is this diameter, your speed reeling to keep up. That is primarily why we use bigger reels and with larger spool capacities, because a 300 series reel is going to have a much more line at the end of the cast than say a 200 series reel. So we're able to catch up with that fish. We're able to keep our retrieve speed consistent, more consistent from start to finish. And number three, even the most important on top of that is these bigger reels are geared for throwing these heavier baits. They got bigger gears, stronger, less plastic, more steel, more aluminum, all that kind of good stuff. So that is why we use these bigger reels to throw these baits for the line capacity so that we can keep up with the fish, keep it hung up, keep a tight line on it. So what reels do I use for what? Usually the only reel I use a 200 for is usually a baby bull shad. You could do a 4-inch baby bull, a 4-inch resin or a 5-inch. Work really well with the 200 series reel. Now, if you are doing short pitches with a 6-inch bait, around docks, around laydowns, or in the jungle or whatever, you can get away with a 200 series reel because you're not getting rid of that spool capacity. However, you might put some legitimate wear and tear on it, but the reel will work in a pinch. If it's all you have and you can't afford it, use what you have until you can't afford what you want. So be mindful with that. The 300 series reel, I use pretty much 6-inch all the way to 8-inch. That seems to be the on my baits, that is. So that's roughly 2.5 ounces to about 3.5 to 4 ounces is what I use for the 300 series reels. Now the 400 series reel, I pretty much throw my 9-inch glide, my 9-inch bull shad, my 11-inch. Those are probably the only 3 baits that I really throw on a 400 series reel. You will find out that when you catch a fish, you have so much more power with these bigger reels and control of the fish than you do with the smaller reels. The biggest thing I can tell you is take advice from somebody that has tried everything. If all you've ever tried is a 200 series reel, you have no clue what a 300 or a 400 series reel will do for you. So be mindful of that when you take advice from somebody, is what their experience level is, and if they're able to speak to these things and the differences between them. So I hope that explains why we use the different reels that we use. I hope this helps. Thank you.